The forest breathed in the dark. Tall pines stood like silent watchers under a sky thick with stars. No road cut through this place. No city lights spoiled the black velvet above. Only wind moved through the branches, whispering secrets older than names. Then something broke the silence. A streak of silver-blue fire tore across the heavens. It was not a meteor. It moved with purpose, then pain. It wobbled, spun, and fell. The trees shook as the object slammed into the earth miles deep in the northern wilds. Smoke curled into the air. Birds scattered. The ground still trembled. From the smoking crater, a figure climbed out. She was tall and lean, wrapped in a suit that shimmered like wet stone. Her hair was short and dark, stuck to her face with sweat and grime. Her eyes, deep brown, almost black, scanned the trees with calm alertness. She did not panic. She had seen worse. Behind her, something shifted in the wreckage. Metal groaned. Then a low growl rumbled, soft but sharp like thunder trapped in a box. The woman turned and knelt. "Easy, Ember," she said, voice quiet but firm. A shape emerged, small at first, no bigger than a large dog but built like a coiled storm. Its scales were the color of sunset on copper, warm and bright even in the dim light. Wings folded tight against its back, eyes like molten gold locked onto the woman's face. It sniffed the air, tense. "We made it," the woman whispered, resting a hand on the creature's head. "Earth, just like the map said." The dragon, Ember, let out a soft huff and pressed closer. Its tail curled around her leg. It was tired, scared, but loyal. The woman's name was Lila. She did not remember her full name anymore. Only Lila and Ember. They had been together for as long as she could recall, drifting between dying stars, hiding from things that hunted light. She checked the wreckage. The pod was ruined, no signal, no way to call for help. Not that help would come. Not for them. She gathered what she could. A water filter, a thermal blanket, a small pouch of nutrient paste. Then she turned away from the crash site and walked deeper into the forest. Ember followed, silent on padded claws. They moved for hours. Lila chose paths that left no trace. She avoided open ground. When she drank from a stream, she tested the water first. When she rested, she sat with her back to a thick trunk, eyes half closed but always watching. Ember curled beside her, wings tucked like a cloak. The dragon's warmth kept the night chill away. Lila ran her fingers along its spine, feeling the faint hum beneath the scales. That hum was fading. She knew it. Ember was weakening. The jump through the rift had cost them both. By dawn, mist clung to the ground like ghost fingers. Lila found a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The sound of falling water would mask their scent and noise. Inside, the stone was dry and cool. She spread the thermal blanket and sat. "Rest," she told Ember. The dragon obeyed, but its eyes stayed open, scanning the entrance. Lila ate a small portion of paste. It tasted like dust and metal, but it kept her alive. She thought about the legends. Earth was supposed to be safe, forgotten, the last place the devourers would look. The Starborn had hidden seeds of life here long ago, hoping something good would grow in the quiet. But Lila was not sure if that hope had lasted. 3 days passed. Lila hunted small game, rabbits, fish, and cooked them over a tiny flame she coaxed from Ember's breath. The dragon could still manage small bursts of fire, though each one made it shiver afterward. Lila rationed its strength. On the 4th night, she heard engines, not human engines. Too smooth, too quiet. They hummed in a frequency that made the air feel heavy. Lila froze. Ember's head snapped up, eyes wide. "Stay," she whispered. She crept to the cave's edge, peering through the waterfall. Above the treetops, 3 sleek craft hovered, black and smooth, shaped like teardrops. Alliance scouts. She knew the design. They had chased her across 3 systems. Her heart pounded, but her hand stayed steady. She pulled a small disc from her belt, the last of her cloaking tech. It flickered to life, bending light around her and Ember. Not perfect, but enough if they stayed still. The scouts circled the crash site. Beams of blue light scanned the forest, searching for heat, movement, energy traces. One beam swept close to the waterfall. Lila held her breath. Ember pressed flat against the stone, trembling. Then a voice crackled from one of the ships. "No life signs beyond local fauna. Energy residue matches a Class 4 escape pod. Likely destroyed on impact." Another voice, sharper, replied. "Run a deep bioscan. Command insists nothing gets missed. Not after what happened on Orion 7. Lila's jaw tightened. Orion 7, that was where she lost the others. Where the devourers broke through the veil. She had barely escaped with Ember. The scan beam lingered, then moved on. The ships rose and vanished into the clouds. Lila waited an hour before moving. When she finally stepped out, her legs felt weak. Ember nudged her hand as if to say it was okay, but it wasn't okay. They had been found. Not fully, but enough. The Alliance would send more. And the Alliance worked with the Devourers now, whether they knew it or not. She needed to move. Fast. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking a valley. Below, a narrow dirt road cut through the trees. A sign stood crooked near the edge, faded paint unreadable. But Lila saw tire tracks. Human. She hesitated. Contact was dangerous. But Ember needed real rest, real food. And she needed information. How much had Earth changed? Were there still people who remembered the old songs? The ones about skywalkers and fire wings? As if answering, a truck rumbled down the road. Old, rusted, loud. A man in a flannel shirt drove it. Radio playing soft country music. He didn't look up. Lila watched him pass. Then she made a choice. That night she left Ember hidden in a thicket and walked to the edge of a small town. Lights glowed in windows. A diner sign flickered. Maggie's. She smelled coffee and frying oil. Her stomach growled. She kept to the shadows, studying. People moved slowly. Laughed. Argued over change at the gas station. Normal. Human. Fragile. Then she saw her. A woman in a dark uniform stood near a parked vehicle that looked out of place. Sleek. Silent, humming faintly. She held a device that glowed green. Her eyes scanned the tree line. Sharp. Focused. Not local. Lila ducked behind a dumpster. Her pulse raced. Alliance again. But this one was alone. Maybe a scout who stayed behind. The woman turned. Her face was young, but her eyes were tired. She had a name tag, Kara. Kara paused, frowning at her scanner. It beeped softly. She looked directly toward the woods where Lila had come from. Lila held still. The cloaking disc was dead now. Drained. Kara took a step forward, then stopped. She raised her hand, not in threat, but in question. "I know you're there," she said, voice low. "I'm not here to hurt you." Lila did not move. Kara sighed. "My scans show something. Impossible. Human biology, but with energy markers I've never seen. And something else. Something warm, alive, like a myth." She lowered the scanner. "If you're who I think you are, you don't have much time. Command is sending a retrieval team. They won't ask nicely." Lila studied her. Kara's stance was open. No weapon drawn. Her voice held curiosity, not fear. Slowly, Lila stepped into the dim streetlight. Kara's breath caught. Her eyes widened as they fell on Lila's face, then passed her into the dark where Ember's golden eyes glowed like twin embers. "Impossible," Kara whispered. "Your kind exists only in legends." Lila said nothing. She just watched. Ember crept forward, low to the ground, wings half spread. It growled, soft but clear. Kara did not flinch. Instead, she knelt. "I read the old texts," she said. "The Starborn. The Guardians. They said you vanished after the Great Rift closed." Lila finally spoke. Her voice was rough from disuse. "Some things should stay vanished." Kara nodded slowly. "Maybe, but the Devourers are waking again. And the Alliance. They don't remember what you protected." Ember snorted, smoke curling from its nostrils. Lila looked at the town, then back at Kara. She had a choice. Trust this stranger or disappear again into the wild. But Ember was fading, and the Devourers were coming. She took a breath. "You'll help us?" she asked. Kara met her eyes. "I'll try." In that moment, under a sky full of forgotten stars, the first thread of a new war began to weave. Not with armies or guns, but with a trembling alien woman, a dying dragon, and a human who still believed in legends. Kara led them through the quiet streets, heart pounding but steps steady. She kept glancing back to make sure Lila and Ember followed. The dragon moved like shadow-given form, silent despite its size. Townsfolk were asleep, windows dark. The world hushed under a blanket of night. Only the hum of Kara's parked scout vehicle broke the calm. She opened the back carefully. "It's shielded," she said. "Thermal and signal dampeners. They won't find you here." Lila studied the vehicle, then nodded. Ember leapt inside with surprising grace, curling into the rear space like a cat claiming a sunbeam. Lila climbed in after, sitting close to the dragon, one hand resting on its side. She did not relax. Her eyes stayed sharp, scanning every shift in the dark. Kara started the engine, quiet, electric, and drove slowly out of town. She headed east, toward an old research outpost she used for field work. It was abandoned now, but the power still worked and the walls were thick. More importantly, it was off the Alliance grid. As they drove, Kara spoke softly. "My name is Kara Ellis. I'm a xenobiologist with the Proxima Science Division. I was sent to investigate the energy spike from your crash. But my real interest? It's older than that." Lila said nothing. Kara glanced in the rearview mirror. "When I was a child, my grandmother told stories about beings who walked between stars, who shaped life from stardust. She called them the Sky Mothers. The Alliance says those are just myths, fairy tales for scared colonists. But your biology, it matches the descriptions." Ember lifted its head, eyes gleaming. A low purr rumbled in its chest. Lila finally spoke. "My grandmother told stories too, but hers ended in fire. They reached the outpost just before dawn. It stood alone on a rocky hill, surrounded by scrub and silence. Kara disabled the perimeter alarms, her own design, and ushered them inside. The air was stale but clean. Solar panels on the roof fed a small battery bank. Lights flickered on. She showed Lila a room with cots and storage. "You can stay here. I'll bring food, medicine, whatever you need." Lila looked around. "How long before they send more ships, Days?" "Maybe less. Command flagged your energy signature as Priority Alpha. They think you're a biohazard or a weapon. Either way, they'll want you contained." Ember lay down with a sigh, scales dimming to a soft copper glow. It was exhausted. Kara hesitated. "Can I scan you both properly? I won't share the data. I just need to understand." Lila watched her for a long moment. Then she nodded. In the lab room, Kara set up her portable scanner. It whirred softly as it mapped Lila's body. The screen filled with data, cell structures pulsing with faint light, mitochondria humming at frequencies no human should produce. Her DNA had extra strands coiled like ancient script. "You're human," Kara whispered, "but not from any Earth I know." "We are from before the silence," Lila said, "before the rifts closed. Earth was a cradle, a hiding place. The Starborn seeded it with life, hoping something kind would grow." Kara's hands trembled as she recorded notes. "And Ember is not a pet, not a beast. He is a flamekeeper, the last of his line. His fire seals the rifts, or it used to." Kara turned to the dragon. Ember allowed the scan, though his eyes never left Lila. The readings were unlike anything in the Alliance database. His cells contained micro-singularities, tiny points of folded space that generated heat and light. His breath wasn't just fire. It was controlled space-time distortion. "This is why they say your kind is legend," Kara said. "You shouldn't exist. The Devourers wiped out the Starborn millennia ago." "Not all," Lila said. "Some hid. Some waited. We were the last watch." Over the next 2 days, Kara brought supplies: real food, clean water, medical kits. She cooked simple meals: beans, rice, bread. Lila ate slowly, savoring flavors she hadn't tasted in years. Ember drank from a large basin, then slept for hours, his sides rising and falling like a slow tide. Kara watched them. She saw how Lila spoke to Ember in soft tones, how the dragon responded with flicks of his tail or gentle nudges. They were partners, family. On the third morning, alarms blared. Kara froze. "They're here." Her console flashed red. 3 Alliance dropships had entered orbit. One was already descending. "They bypassed the outer sensors," she said, voice tight. "Command must have traced my last transmission." Lila stood. Ember rose beside her, wings flaring slightly, a warning growl building in his throat. "We can't fight them," Kara said. "Not head on." "We don't have to," Lila replied. "Just buy us time." Kara nodded. She activated a decoy signal from a drone hidden in the woods. It mimicked a high-energy burst, enough to draw attention. The descending ship veered toward the false reading. "Go," Kara urged, "through the back tunnel. It leads to the river. Follow it north." Lila hesitated. "Why help us? You could turn us in." "Get a promotion. Safety." Kara looked at her, eyes clear. "Because if you're real, then the stories were true. And if the stories were true, then the Devourers are coming back. And we're not ready." Lila gave a small nod. Then she and Ember slipped into the tunnel. But they didn't get far. Halfway down the slope, figures emerged from the trees. Not Alliance soldiers, these wore black armor with no insignia. Their movements were too smooth, too precise. Their eyes glowed faintly red under helmets. Void stalkers. Lila's blood ran cold. These were not human. They were servants of the Devourers wearing stolen flesh. Ember snarled, fire gathering in his throat. "Run," Lila told Kara, who had followed them, weapon drawn. Kara fired her pulse pistol. The shot hit a stalker in the chest, but the creature didn't fall. It kept coming. Ember unleashed a stream of flame, not wild, not chaotic. It curved like a whip, striking each stalker in the joints. Their armor melted. They collapsed, twitching, but more came. Lila grabbed Kara's arm. "The river, now!" They sprinted, Ember covering their rear. At the riverbank, Lila pushed Kara into the water. "Stay low. Follow the current." Kara hesitated. "What about you?" "We'll meet you downstream." "Go." Kara dove in, swept away by the current. Lila turned to face the approaching stalkers. Ember stood beside her, scales blazing like a forge. Then from above, a new sound. Engines. The Alliance dropship hovered overhead, spotlight sweeping the bank. A voice boomed through speakers. "Surrender the anomaly. Resistance is futile." Lila looked up. She saw Kara's face on the ship's side screen. Her access had been revoked. They knew she helped them. Ember growled. Lila placed a hand on his neck. "Not yet," she raised her arms. "We surrender!" The stalkers halted. The Alliance ship lowered a capture platform. As Lila stepped onto it, Ember at her side, she caught a glimpse of Kara pulling herself onto a distant shore, watching, helpless. They were taken to a mobile containment unit deep in the forest. The Alliance had built it fast. Reinforced walls, neural dampeners, gravity locks. Lila was placed in a cell lined with silver mesh. Ember was in a larger chamber beside her, separated by transparent alloy. A woman in a commander's uniform entered, tall, stern, with sharp eyes and a voice like steel. "I am Dana Voss," she said, "head of anomaly retrieval. You will answer our questions." Lila said nothing. Dana gestured to a screen. It showed footage of Ember's fire. "That energy signature matches pre-collapse records. The Starborn. Extinct for 10,000 years. Yet here you are. Why still silence?" Dana's jaw tightened. "We detected Voidstalker activity near your location. They're drawn to you. Which means you're either their target or their key." Lila finally spoke. "They hunt what they cannot control." "Then let us control it," Dana said. "Help us weaponize your dragon's fire. We can end the stalker threat forever." "You don't understand," Lila said. "Ember's fire doesn't destroy, it seals. It closes the doors the Devourers crawl through. If you twist it into a weapon, you'll tear those doors open." Dana scoffed. "Superstition?" "Energy is energy." She turned to leave. "You have until dawn to cooperate." After she left, Kara appeared at the cell door. She wore a maintenance uniform, face smudged with dirt. "I got reassigned as a cleaner," she whispered. "They don't trust me, but they didn't arrest me." Lila looked at her. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to try," Kara said. "Dana's going to extract Ember's core at sunrise. She thinks it's a power source." Lila's eyes darkened. "If she does, the rift near Proxima will reopen. The Devourers will pour through." Kara swallowed. "What can we do?" Lila glanced at Ember. The dragon met her gaze. In that look, centuries passed between them. "We show them the truth," Lila said. Kara frowned. "How Ember's fire doesn't just burn. It reveals. It shows what was, what is, what could be. But it takes a willing mind to see," Kara understood. "You want me to witness it?" Lila nodded. "And then you must tell them. Before it's too late." Kara looked at the guards down the hall. Then back at Lila. She made her choice. She disabled the local camera feed with a stolen override chip. Then she pressed her hand to the transparent wall. Ember approached. He closed his eyes. Deep in his chest, a light began to pulse. Slow, rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of stars. The air shimmered. Kara gasped as images flooded her mind. Not pictures, memories, feelings. She saw the Starborn, tall, luminous beings planting seeds on a young Earth. She felt their sorrow as the Devourers came, tearing holes in reality. She watched Lila, centuries younger, standing on a burning world. Holding Ember's egg as the last ship fled, she saw the great ceiling. The moment Ember's ancestors sang the rifts shut with fire and sacrifice, and she saw the future. If Ember's core was taken, the rift would yawn. Dawn came soft and pale over the forest. But inside the containment unit, the air was thick with tension. Kara stood frozen, her hand still pressed to the transparent wall. The weight of Ember's vision clinging to her like smoke. She had seen too much to pretend anymore. The Alliance was not protecting humanity. It was playing with fire it did not understand. She stepped back, heart racing. "I have to stop Dana," she said. Lila watched her, eyes calm but urgent. "You cannot fight her alone." "I don't have to," Kara replied. "I just have to make them listen." She turned and hurried down the corridor, head low, maintenance badge clipped to her chest. The base was quiet. Most personnel were preparing for the extraction procedure. She slipped into the command hub, a room filled with screens and comms consoles. No one paid her much mind. Cleaners were invisible. At a terminal in the corner, she inserted a data chip, her personal archive. With quick fingers, she began compiling everything. Lila's bio readings, Ember's energy patterns, and the raw neural imprint from the vision. She tagged it with high-priority clearance codes stolen from Dana's own logs. Then she sent it, not to Alliance Command, not to Proxima Central. She sent it to every independent science outpost, every fringe colony researcher, every whistleblower channel she had ever bookmarked. The truth would spread like wildfire. By noon, thousands would know, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. Dana entered the hub just as Kara hit send. The commander's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" Kara stood slowly. "Sharing what we found." Dana strode over, yanked the chip from the port, and crushed it in her fist. "You betrayed your oath." "I honored it," Kara said. "The oath to protect life, not dissect it." Dana's face hardened. "Lock her up. Full neural quarantine. She's compromised." Guards moved in, but Kara didn't resist. As they led her away, she glanced toward the containment wing. Lila was watching through the surveillance feed. Their eyes met. A silent promise passed between them. In her cell, Kara sat on the cold floor, arms wrapped around her knees. She thought of her grandmother's stories, of sky mothers who wept starlight when worlds died. She had always thought them beautiful lies. Now she knew they were warnings. Meanwhile, in the main lab, Dana oversaw the final preparations. Technicians wheeled in a resonance extractor, a device designed to draw energy from living sources without killing them. At least that's what the manual claimed. Ember lay in his chamber, wings folded tight. He did not struggle. He only watched Dana with ancient eyes. Lila stood at the edge of her cell, hands gripping the mesh. "You don't know what you're waking," she said. Dana didn't look at her. "We're not waking anything. We're harvesting." "Then you've already lost," Lila whispered. At sunrise, the procedure began. Technicians activated the extractor. A low hum filled the room. Beams of blue light lanced into Ember's chest. The dragon flinched but held still. Smoke curled from his nostrils. On the monitors, energy readings spiked. Off the charts. Dana smiled, but then the lights flickered. The hum turned into a roar. Ember's eyes snapped open. Blazing gold filled with starlight. The extractor groaned, then shattered. Shards of metal flew across the room. Alarms blared. "Shut it down," Dana yelled. Too late. Ember rose, not with violence but with presence. His scales glowed brighter, hotter. The air warped around him. The containment walls began to melt, not from heat but from reality itself bending. Lila stepped forward. The neural dampeners failed. The gravity locks disengaged. The door to her cell slid open. She walked into the lab, unafraid. Dana backed away. "What is this truth?" Lila said. Ember turned to Kara's cell down the hall. With a single breath, he sent a thin stream of fire, not to burn but to unlock. The door melted open. Kara ran in, breathless. "You have to show them," Lila said. "Not just the data. The memory." Kara understood. She approached Ember, trembling but determined. "Do it." Ember lowered his head. He touched his snout to her forehead, and the room changed. Not physically, but everyone there. Dana, the guards, the stunned technicians saw it. The same vision Kara had seen. The seeding of Earth, the fall of the Starborn, the Devourers tearing through dimensions like paper, and the ceiling. The sacrifice. Dana fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "We were wrong," she whispered. "All of it." Lila knelt beside her. "You still can choose. Help us hide them. Or help us prepare." Dana looked at Ember, then at Lila. "The Devourers. Are they coming back?" "They never left," Lila said. "They've been waiting. Feeding on fear. On war. On ignorance. And your alliance. You've been opening doors for them without knowing." Outside, the sky darkened, not from clouds, from something else. A rift. Thin, jagged, glowing purple at the edges. It hung above the forest like a wound in the world. Dana stood, jaw set. "Then we close it." She turned to her team. Evacuate the base. Full lockdown, and get me every shield generator we have. Kara helped Lila and Ember to the surface. The rift pulsed, low thunder rumbling from its depths. Shapes moved inside. Tall, twisted, hungry. Ember growled, fire building in his chest. Not yet, Lila said. It's too wide. He can't seal it alone. Kara looked at the rift, then at the base. What if we focus the shield generators on the rift's edge, amplify Ember's fire with our tech? Lila's eyes lit up. It might work. They raced back inside. Dana was already reorganizing her team. No more extraction. No more capture. Only defense technicians rerouted power. Shield emitters were dragged to the roof, aimed at the rift. Kara worked with Lila to calibrate the frequency, matching it to Ember's natural resonance. Ember stood on the roof, wings spread, scales blazing. The rift pulsed faster as if sensing the threat. Below, Dana watched, hand on her sidearm. Not to fight, but to stand ready. On your mark, Kara said into the comms. Lila nodded. Now the shield generators fired. Beams of white light struck the rift's edges, holding it open, but stable. Ember roared. Fire erupted from his mouth. Not orange, not red, but pure white gold. It spiraled upward, weaving through the shield beams, wrapping around the rift like thread around a needle. The rift screamed, a sound no human throat could make, a noise of tearing dimensions. Ember's fire tightened. The rift shrank. Inch by inch it closed, but the effort cost him. His glow dimmed. His wings trembled. Lila ran to him, placing her hands on his side, pouring her own energy into him. What little she had left. Kara and Dana watched, breathless. Finally, with a sound like a sigh, the rift vanished. Silence returned. Ember collapsed. Lila caught him, cradling his head. Dawn broke fully now, golden and clean. Dana approached slowly. He saved us, Lila looked up. For now, Kara knelt beside them. What happens next? Lila gazed at the sky. The Devourers know we're here. They'll send more, stronger, and Ember. He won't last many more seals. Dana sat on the edge of the roof, exhaustion in her eyes. Then we find a way to help him. To restore his power. How? Kara asked. Lila smiled faintly. There are places on Earth older than the Starborn. Places where the veil is thin. Where life still remembers. Like where? Dana asked. The redwoods, Lila said. The canyons. The deep caves under the mountains. Earth holds echoes. If we listen, it will guide us, Kara stood. Then we go. Dana nodded. I'll clear your records. Declare the mission a containment failure. No survivors. That should buy you time. Lila looked at her. Why? Because, Dana said, someone has to remember what real guardians look like. As the sun rose higher, the three women, human, guardian, and dragon, stood together on the roof of a broken base, watching the world breathe again. The war was not over, but for the first time in centuries they were not alone. They left before noon. The base was a ghost now, stripped of data, wiped clean by Dana's orders. Smoke still curled from the ruined extractor. But the rift was gone and the forest breathed easy again. Lila walked with Ember at her side, his steps slower than before, his glow faint like banked coals. Kara carried a pack filled with rations, medkits, and a small comm unit Dana had slipped her. Encrypted, untraceable. Dana stayed behind to file the false report, to play the part of the loyal commander who lost her team to an unstable anomaly. The road ahead was long. They headed west, toward the old mountains where the trees grew tall and the rivers ran deep. Lila said the earth remembered there, that the bones of the world still hummed with the songs of the Starborn. For 3 days they traveled on foot, avoiding roads, sleeping under stars that felt closer than they had in years. Ember rested often, curling against Lila's back like a living blanket. Kara watched them, learning the quiet rhythm of their bond. She saw how Lila spoke to the wind, how Ember's eyes followed the flight of hawks as if reading messages in their wings. On the 4th morning, they reached the edge of a vast canyon. Red stone stretched for miles, carved by time and water. The air was dry and sharp. Lila stopped at the rim and closed her eyes. This place, she said. It holds a memory. Kara looked out over the expanse. What kind of healing? They descended into the canyon using narrow trails worn smooth by centuries of feet. Human, animal, maybe others. Halfway down, Lila found a cave hidden behind a curtain of hanging vines. Inside, the walls shimmered with crystals that pulsed faintly like slow heartbeats. Ember perked up. He sniffed the air, then walked deeper, drawn to a pool in the center of the chamber. The water was clear and still, reflecting the crystals above. As he approached, the water began to glow. Lila knelt by the pool. This is a wellspring. One of the last. The Starborn built these to anchor life to the planet, to keep the veil strong. Kara watched as Ember dipped his snout into the water. Light rippled outward. His scales brightened just a little. A soft hum filled the cave. He's drawing strength, Lila whispered, but it's not enough. The wellspring is weak. The Devourers have been poisoning the deep places. Kara frowned.
How? Through fear?
Through war. Every time humans tear each other apart, the veil thins. The Devourers feed on that pain. They don't need ships or weapons. They just wait for you to break yourselves. Ember lifted his head, water dripping from his jaws. He looked at Lila, then at Kara, and let out a low, mournful sound. That night, as they camped in the cave, Kara asked the question she had been holding. Why did the Starborn choose humans? Lila stared into the glowing pool. Because you feel deeply. You create. You dream. Even in darkness, you reach for light. That's rare in the universe. But we also destroy, Kara said. So do stars, Lila replied. But from their death, new worlds are born. They stayed in the canyon for 2 days. Ember grew stronger, his fire returning to a steady warmth. Lila meditated by the pool, her hands in the water, whispering words Kara could not understand. The crystals glowed brighter each hour. But on the 3rd morning, the sky changed, not with clouds. With silence, birds stopped singing. Insects fell quiet. Even the wind held its breath. Lila stood abruptly. They're here. Kara grabbed her pulse pistol. Stalker's worse, Lila said. A hunter. Ember's wings flared. His eyes locked on the canyon rim. Above, the air twisted. Not a rift this time, but a shape forming from shadow and static. Tall, armored, with no face, only a smooth plate where eyes should be. It floated, silent, radiating cold. A Devourer prime. Kara's breath caught. They never come in person. They do when they're desperate, Lila said. Ember weakened the veil when he sealed the last rift. They felt it. Now they want him gone. The prime raised a hand. The canyon walls groaned. Cracks spread through the stone. The wellspring's light flickered. Ember growled, stepping in front of Lila and Kara. Don't, Lila said. It wants you to fight. Your fire will only feed it. Kara looked around. Then what do we do? Lila's eyes hardened. We remind the earth who it belongs to. She ran to the pool and plunged both hands into the water. She began to sing. Not in words, but in tones that vibrated through the stone. The crystals responded, flashing brighter. The ground trembled, not from the Devourer, but from below. Roots burst through the floor, thick and ancient, wrapping around Ember, around Kara, around Lila. The Devourer prime hesitated. The song grew louder. The canyon itself seemed to rise in defense. Stones lifted from the ground, hovering in the air. The wellspring boiled with light. Ember understood. He opened his mouth, not to breathe fire, but to join the song. His voice was deep, resonant, like thunder wrapped in silk. Together, Lila and Ember wove a sound that was older than stars. The Devourer prime staggered. Its form flickered, as if struggling to hold itself together in this place of memory. Kara watched, awestruck. This was not war as she knew it. This was balance. This was the earth fighting back. With a final note, Lila thrust her hands upward. The canyon roared. Light erupted from every crystal, every root, every drop of water. It struck the Devourer like a wave, not burning but unraveling. The prime let out a sound like shattering glass and dissolved into smoke. Silence returned. Ember collapsed, exhausted but whole. Layla fell to her knees, gasping. Kara ran to them. Are you okay? Lila nodded weakly. For now. But it will tell the others. They'll come in force. Ember lifted his head and nudged Kara's hand. In his eyes she saw a question. She understood. We can't hide forever. Lila looked at her. What do you suggest? Kara took a deep breath. We go to the Alliance. Not to fight. To show them. Dana bought us time, but it's running out. If the Devourers attack openly, billions will die. The Alliance won't listen, Lila said. Maybe not, Kara replied, but the people will. And if enough believe, maybe the veil can heal. Lila was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at Ember. The dragon gave a slow blink, his way of agreeing. Then we go, Lila said. They left the canyon at dusk. This time they did not hide. They walked toward the nearest relay station. where Kara could send a secure message to Dana. By morning, a shuttle would meet them on the edge of the salt flats, but the Devourers were faster. As they crossed a dry riverbed, the ground split open, not one rift but dozens. From each, stalkers poured, dozens then hundreds. They moved in perfect silence, surrounding the trio in a tightening circle. Kara raised her pistol, but Leela put a hand on her arm. "No bullets," she said. "Only truth." Ember stepped forward. His scales blazed, not with rage, but with purpose. He spread his wings wide, and for the first time, they grew beyond their usual size. Light poured from his body, not just fire, but memory. Every life he had protected, every rift he had sealed, every song he had sung, it all poured out in a wave of golden light. The stalkers froze. In that light, they saw what they had been before the Devourers took them. Human, alien, starborn. They remembered. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others turned and walked into the desert as if waking from a long nightmare. The rifts closed on their own. Kara stared. "You freed them." "Ember didn't free them," Lila said. He reminded them they were never truly lost. At the edge of the flats, the shuttle waited. Dana stood beside it, alone. She looked at Ember, then at Lila. "I saw the energy surge. The entire sector lit up like a sunrise." "They're waking up," Kara said. Dana nodded. "Then it's time." As they boarded the shuttle, Lila looked back at the desert. The wind carried whispers, of hope, of warning, of war. Above, the stars watched, and for the first time in a long time, they did not look so far away. The shuttle rose into the sky, leaving the salt flats behind like a pale scar on the earth. Inside, Ember lay curled on the floor, his breathing slow but steady. Leela sat beside him, one hand resting on his side, feeling the quiet hum of his heart. Kara stood at the viewport, watching the clouds swallow the land below. Dana piloted from the front, her face unreadable, her hands steady on the controls. They were heading to orbit, not to an Alliance warship, but to a listening post on the dark side of the moon. Abandoned, forgotten, perfect. Dana had chosen it carefully. No surveillance. No command oversight. Just silence and steel. "They'll come," Dana said without turning. "Once they detect Ember's signature, they'll send everything." "Let them," Lila replied. "This ends in the open." Kara turned from the window. "What do you mean?" "The Alliance hides the truth because they fear chaos," Lila said. "But chaos is already here. The only thing that can stop the Devourers is unity. Not weapons, not walls. Belief." Ember lifted his head slightly as if in agreement. The journey took hours. In that time, Lila taught Kara the old words, the ones that shaped light, that called to the deep places of the world. Not magic, but memory. A language the earth still understood. Dana listened from the cockpit, silent but attentive. When they reached the moon, the shuttle docked in a shadowed crater. The post was small, built during the early days of spaceflight long before the Alliance existed. Inside, dust floated in the low gravity. Screens were dark, but the power core still worked. Kara set up the broadcast array. Dana rerouted satellite relays. Lila stood in the center of the main chamber, Ember at her feet. "Ready?" Kara said. Lila nodded. "Show them everything." Kara activated the feed, not just to Alliance channels, but to every public network. Every colony broadcast, every personal device connected to the net. The signal carried Ember's resonance, Lila's voice, and the raw truth of what was coming. Then Lila spoke. She did not shout. She did not plead. She simply told the story of the Starborn, of the Devourers, of Earth as a cradle, not a conquest. She spoke of Ember not as a weapon, but as a guardian, and she warned of the rifts, how they fed on fear, on division, on silence. As she spoke, Ember breathed a slow stream of fire into the air. It did not burn. It formed images, visions of the past, the present, the possible future. Cities falling to shadow, children hiding in ruins. Then another path. People standing together, hands linked, light rising from the ground. The broadcast lasted 17 minutes. By the end, billions had seen it. On Earth, crowds gathered in streets, not in panic but in quiet awe. In orbit, Alliance ships paused their patrols. On distant colonies, old songs were sung again, songs no one remembered learning. And in command centers across the sector, leaders faced a choice. Some called it a hoax. Others ordered immediate strikes. But many, more than anyone expected, ordered silence. They watched. They listened. They remembered. 3 hours later, the first rift opened above the moon. Not small, not hidden. A jagged tear in space wide enough to swallow cities. From it poured not stalkers, but the devourers themselves. Tall, shifting forms of hunger and void, their presence making the metal walls of the post groan. Dana checked the scanners. They're not just coming for Ember. They're coming for the signal. They want to silence the truth, Lila stood. Then we give them a voice they can't ignore. She walked to the outer airlock. Ember followed, wings fully spread now, glowing like a small sun. Kara grabbed her arm. You can't face them alone. I'm not alone, Lila said, glancing at her, then at Dana. And neither are you. Dana picked up a pulse rifle, not to kill, but to hold the line. I'll cover the entrance. Kara activated the station's old defense turrets. Rusty, weak, but better than nothing. Lila and Ember stepped onto the lunar surface. The sky was black, the earth a blue jewel behind them. Before them the rift pulsed, devourers drifting like smoke-given teeth. Ember roared. Not a sound of anger, but of declaration. His fire erupted not as a weapon, but as a seal. Golden light spiraled toward the rift, weaving through the void, stitching the edges shut. The devourers shrieked, lashing out with tendrils of darkness. Lila raised her hands. She sang the oldest song, the one the Starborn used to plant the first seeds on Earth. The moon itself trembled. Dust rose in spirals. The ground beneath her feet glowed with ancient power. The devourers faltered. They had expected fear. They found faith. From orbit, Alliance ships watched. One by one, they powered down their weapons. Then slowly they moved, not to attack, but to form a ring around the moon. A shield. A witness. On Earth, people looked up. They saw the rift, the light, the small figures standing against the dark, and they did something the devourers never understood. They hoped. Ember's fire grew brighter. Lila's voice rose higher. The rift shrank inch by inch as if the universe itself was pushing back. But the cost was great. Ember's glow began to fade. His wings drooped. Lila's voice cracked. Kara ran to the airlock, tears in her eyes. We have to help them, Dana shook her head. We can't, this is their moment. But we can honor it. She opened a channel to every ship in orbit. All units. Broadcast their light. Amplify it. Ships activated their comms arrays not to jam but to carry. Ember's fire. Lila's song. They were beamed across the system, across the stars. And something answered. From deep space, from hidden places, from worlds long thought dead, lights flickered on. Old beacons. Forgotten guardians. Echoes of the Starborn. The devourers screamed as the rift collapsed inward, sealing with a sound like a sigh. Silence returned to the moon. Lila fell to her knees. Ember curled around her, weak but alive. Kara and Dana rushed out in suits, helping them back inside. In the days that followed, the Alliance declared a new directive. No more hunting anomalies. No more hiding truth. Instead, they began listening. To Earth, to the old places, to the whispers in the wind. Kara returned to the northern wilds, not as a scientist, but as a keeper. She built a small cabin near the waterfall cave. Sometimes in the early morning she saw tracks in the mud, human and clawed, leading into the trees. Dana resigned her commission. She traveled the colonies, sharing the story, teaching the old songs to children who had never heard them. And Lila and Ember vanished, but not truly. In a quiet coastal town, a woman with tired eyes bought bread from a corner store. A small copper-scaled creature napped in her woven satchel, mistaken for an odd lizard. No one noticed the way streetlights dimmed as they passed or how birds fell silent in reverence. Far above, the Alliance debated closing the Earth file permanently, but in whispered logs across fringe colonies, a new myth spread. The Guardian and her flame still walked among the stars' children, and if the Devourers ever returned, they would not come unchallenged.